Welcome, welcome. We're going to give everybody 60 seconds to get signed in. While you guys are signing in, put an emoji in the chat to tell me how your day is going. How is your day going today?
I'll say the gloominess doesn't help.
Is it gloomy? It's
Where
cold
I am,
here.
it's
It's
very
raining.
gloomy.
It's a rainy situation. Andrea is sleepy. I'm always sleepy. I got new glasses, you guys, and I didn't realize I couldn't see very well, but the adjustment, my poor eyes are sleepy. How about any of you guys? How are your days going?
Everyone must be busy or tired.
Well, we are going to go ahead and get started because we want to be respectful of your time. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that some of you guys are not feeling well. My son's nurse got sick today, and then some of his therapists were sick. The flu is going around. I think we should all carry Microban and Lysol around, just so I can spray the car, keep alcohol wipes in all your pockets, because the germs, they are out right now. I hope that you guys are going to start to feel a lot better in the next couple of days. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and get started today. We are here to talk about virtual IEP meetings and how to advocate in virtual spaces. We know that a lot of teams have moved to virtual meetings, and we want to help you guys be set up for success. So when it comes to virtual meetings, one of the best places to start is to set up virtual meeting norms as you start. You want to think about meeting norms as like general rules for how we're going to proceed with this meeting. Does anybody have a good virtual norm that they can think of that they'd like to share? While you guys are thinking, mine is in virtual IEP meetings, let's turn our cameras on. Let's turn our cameras on so we can see you, especially when you're working with school teams or if you're working with families where there's more than one people. You want to know who's talking, right? You want to know who's on the other side of the screen. I want to make sure that everybody is able to have a voice. So if you're in a meeting, one of your virtual norms might be, let's have cameras on. You might also have mics off. If people aren't talking, you could say, please, you want to use the hand raising icon, whatever is appropriate for the meeting where you are. Be on time is a great norm for all meetings. Being on time is good for all meetings. That is great, sharing your name. I also think that meetings should start with introductions, but also in those meeting spaces, depending on which platform you're using, it can just rapidly switch from person to person. And sometimes the person on your screen isn't always the person that's talking. So it is a good idea when you start like, hey, this is this, and share what it is that you want to share. That is a good idea. And so by starting your meeting by establishing what your meeting norms are, you guys can continue through the meeting with all of those things in place. Especially good because sometimes in virtual spaces it can be harder not to talk over each other because you're relying on seeing people's visual cues to be like, oh, I can talk now. And so you may want to identify like, we're going to do the hand raising feature and this person's going to be in charge of tracking that to ensure everybody has a chance to speak and share their opinion, because we want to, in all of these spaces, be able to foster communication and collaboration. So one of the other things we want to do is we want to make sure we're prepared. Just like any in-person meeting, you want to be able to prepare. And while screen sharing in virtual spaces is ideal so that you can see everything, you can't always see all of the people and see the documents. So it's a good idea when possible to request drafts ahead of time so that you can read through those, read through any evaluation reports, as well as review the data. That way you can write down your concerns. You can write down your vision statement. You can write down the questions you want to bring up and then write down any ideas you have for the team. It can be really hard, whether you're in a virtual space or in person, to remember all of the things that you want to say and ask. So it's a good idea to sit down a couple days or a week ahead, write down your list of concerns, send it to the team. And this does two things, you guys. This lets the team know these are the family's concerns, and it lets them plan to address them. It lets them plan to have enough time for you guys to discuss those. You can write up your vision statement and send that to them to put in ahead of time as well. But you can also write down questions you want to ask for clarification. How is this being implemented? How are you measuring this? I'm worried about this. Are you seeing this too? You want to write all those things down, because sometimes when the meeting gets rolling and we're in a rhythm, you may forget, or you may not be sure where you want to bring it. If you write it down, you'll be able to quickly bring it to your mind. Also, always a good idea to log in a few minutes early to make sure that your technology is working. Technology can be a finicky thing. And so logging in a few minutes ahead can help make sure that you are on the right trajectory to have a successful meeting. Always check microphones, sound, and camera functionalities. Set an agenda. Now, this may not be something you need for every meeting, but if you know that there are a couple of things you want to make sure that you have enough time to talk about, you guys can set an agenda for the meeting to ensure that there is time and that there is space for all of the things you want to share. IEP meetings specifically have a very specific format, and oftentimes those meetings run through each piece. But sometimes when you're listing your concerns at the beginning, you might be talking about concerns about the goals, and you want to kind of, make sure that you have more than just a few minutes to run through that. So thinking about at the beginning of the meeting how much time you're going to need, and so that you can prepare for the meeting to make sure that everybody's going to have enough time to collaborate and share. So setting an agenda can be good to just know that we're going to get to that we have it on the agenda. We're going to talk about it. And when you're going to talk about it, so that you don't feel like you're not being heard, because, we want you guys to be heard at your meetings. Because as we know, effective communication is essential. So one of the most important things that I always want families to remember is that sometimes all of these processes, whether it is a 504 meeting, whether it's an IEP meeting, some of these processes cause us to be very passionate. Sometimes they're very emotional, depending on the topics at hand. As people, we're not always effective communicators when our emotions are really high. And we're going to talk a little bit later about what you should do in those circumstances, but we want to have really effective communication. And this is another place where jotting out how you're going to say something or how you want to communicate something can help you to communicate it in a way that is effective. We are all human. You are not going to like every single person you come across. And I know that if you've been to other things I've done, that I said that, but I just want to reiterate, we're all human. You're not, it's just a reality. But what we do need to do is treat everybody professionally and with respect, and, reframing how we say things to make sure we're communicating our point effectively versus communicating how we feel about it can be very effective, because I don't want the other person on the other side of the table to not hear my message, because what they hear is that I'm really frustrated. I want them to hear the actual intent. I may be frustrated about something that is happening, but my intent in this conversation is for us to come up with a plan to fix it or to discuss it, or etc. Also, to continue with our effective communication, ask clarifying questions. If you see something, it says a term, if it's a concept and you don't know what it is, or even if it's an evaluation type, if you don't know what it is, go ahead and ask. Sometimes we try to wait until there's like a pause, but I don't know about you guys, but I would forget. I have mom brain sometimes. I won't remember if I try to hold it in my head for later. If you see something and you don't know what it is, go ahead and ask. If there's an acronym that's being used, whether it's FAPE, LRE, any acronym, and you don't know what it means, go ahead and ask. Because as a, you know, to be a meaningful participant and effectively advocate for your child, you need to understand what it is that's being said. And it is 100% okay to ask for clarification. If you read a goal and it doesn't make sense or you don't understand how it's going to be measured, go ahead and ask. If you need just a second because you're taking notes, you can say, hey, can you wait just a second? I'm writing down some notes so I can make sure I can ask some questions. Can you just wait just a second? So I don't want to miss anything. This is, you know, because this is so important. We don't want to miss anything. So really set yourself up. We have some tools that I'll send in your follow-up email called Talk Tools that can help you to frame those conversations. Because we want to make sure, you know, that you don't leave the meeting not understanding what was said or not understanding the goals that were written. We want to make sure that you guys are set up to have effective communication. Prior written notices. A prior written notice is a very important document. This is a document that's going to document all of the decisions that were made at the meeting. And it's really important that you stay whenever possible to until this document is completed so that you can have a voice in what is said and in the language that is used on the document. This is a place where you can also document things that parents requested that the team did not proceed with, and they typically it'll say why. But if you're not there to have a voice in how that is written when it comes home, if you don't agree, then you would have, you know, follow up on that. But whenever possible, if you can stay so that you can read, because it's going to list every decision that the team made and it's going to discuss every decision that was considered. And so it will also, it's a good summary of everything that happened. But it also, the reason it's called a prior written notice is this is going to give you that window of time between your meeting and implementation if there are steps you want to take if you need to have another meeting. But it's just very important that you are there so that your voice can be heard and you're a part of that process, because this is still an important part of the IEP process. What if you don't want a virtual meeting? So when we're scheduling meetings, right, we want them to be in a mutually agreed upon time and place. So if you get a notice for a virtual meeting and you don't want to have a virtual meeting, please communicate that to your team. Hey, I understand that in this time and space that virtual meetings are sometimes easier to navigate with everybody's schedules, but I really want us to have an in-person meeting and meet face-to-face so that we can communicate and collaborate effectively. If you have barriers that make virtual meetings hard, whether that's internet access, you know, spotty Wi-Fi, or if you had deaf or hard of hearing, anything that would cause virtual meetings to be a barrier, you can communicate that to your team. And then as a parent, you're allowed to have meaningful participation. And if this is not a way you can meaningfully participate, tell your team. So sometimes we have a comment about prior written notices are not completed when together and it's sent. You can ask to stay. There are some districts where that happens. If that does happen and you get one after, go ahead and review it immediately. And that way you can request, hey, I just want to point out like this section and clarify your thoughts, or you can send your thoughts to be attached to it. But you can request to stay for the completion of the prior written notice. Okay. Something that also happens in virtual spaces. This also happens in regular IEP meetings. Sometimes we're rushing to get to the end. We can take our time. We are allowed to have these are important conversations, right? We understand there are time constraints, whether virtually or in person, but we can't have effective collaboration and communication and truly discuss the data in a meaningful way if we're rushing because we've got this time limit. If you're having conversation and you need to schedule another meeting, so that you can continue those conversations. That is okay. You could say, hey, I think we really need to discuss this further. Let's schedule another date so that we can continue to discuss this, so that we can have more time. I know we wanted to get through all of this today, but I really feel like there are some important nuances we need to discuss. So let's think of another time that we'll be able to meet and finish this. Also, if you have if you think, if they schedule the meeting for an hour and you think that you're going to need more, go ahead and say, hey, I think we're going to need more time. Hey, I think, we should schedule a second date so that we will have that date already on the calendar to schedule more time. Just to kind of, think it through. If because it's great if you can get through everything in whatever time is allotted, but it's okay if you need more time to discuss. We understand everybody has time constraints and we want to have effective meetings. But it's not fair to our children, and it doesn't allow for meaningful participation if we're just rushing through the whole process, because that doesn't allow you time to think of your questions. It doesn't allow you to think of your times for concerns. It doesn't allow you to have that meaningful input. Okay, so now is my favorite part. I'm going to give you guys some scenarios and you tell me your ideas. So you are in a virtual IEP meeting. Everyone except you has your camera off. What could you do to promote better collaboration and communication? Does anybody have any ideas? You could ask the team members to turn their cameras. It disappeared. Ask the team members if they'll turn on their cameras so I know who's talking. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Johanna. So you can say, hey, please turn your camera on so I can see who is talking and who is in this space with me, right? Because sometimes in meetings, if you're in a virtual meeting, sometimes teams will not all have computers and microphones because it picks up everybody's stuff and you hear those microphones go. So sometimes they'll be sharing computers and you need to know who is there. Great idea. Can you turn on your cameras and then we'll just stay muted when we're speaking. So it is hard to have effective communication with black squares, right? If the square and you don't know who it is. Or sometimes it doesn't even have like a full name. I love that. Tell them that you want to put names and faces together, especially when it comes to who is interacting with your child. That's important, especially as your kids get older. Sometimes you don't get to have as much face-to-face contact with your child's teacher. So knowing who is a part of the team and who is a part of working with your child is important. Asking them to add their names and position to their screen so that you, when they're speaking, know who they are. Great ideas, you guys. Scenario 2. This one has really happened to me, you guys. So let's see what you guys think. You are in a virtual meeting. Cameras are on. You notice there are 2 people speaking to each other in one of the views, but they are muted. They are not speaking to you. What could you do or say in this moment to promote communication and collaboration? You could ask them to limit side conversations. You could alert them like, hey, you're muted. We can't y'all hear what you said. You could ask if they have a question or comment to be addressed. One of the important things here is sometimes, depending on how great our relationship is with the team, if we see that, sometimes it can hurt our feelings. At least in this, and sometimes we can think that they're talking about what's happening or that they have a side conversation. And you know that they're speaking to each other because you can see it on the camera lens. So I think these are great, respectful ways to communicate. Hey, I see you guys are talking. Was there something that you wanted to share and you were muted and we didn't hear you? Was there something you wanted to add so that we can all discuss it together? Those are great ways to encourage open collaboration and communication, because they could have been talking about something completely unrelated. And if that was the case, we could say, hey, we're all here to we're all here to discuss and work towards building a program for my child. If we could all participate, that would be great. You can say a variety of things to regain that communication and collaboration. But I do like, as one of your meeting norms, saying, hey, let's limit side conversations so that I know that we're all focused and all here. My son's name for Alex, so I just use his name. We're all here to focus on Alex, and I really love it as part of our meeting norms if we limit any type of side conversation, because we're here to all meaningfully work together to communicate and collaborate so we can discuss ideas as a team. Okay. You are in a virtual meeting reviewing evaluation reports. You have not yet seen the full evaluations. The practitioner briefly reviews each one before moving forward. You do not feel like you had time to understand the results. They ask if you have any questions, but you are still processing the results. What could you do or say in this moment? You can say that you need more time to review those. You can request a few minutes one-on-one to review those. You can say, I love that, Jack. I have not had an opportunity to review. Can we reschedule? You can say, thank you guys so much for going over these evaluations. I really need to take some more time to take these home and read through them again myself and have a chance to come up with my questions. What's another date and time that would work for you? You could ask for a short break so that you can review. It really depends on you and your needs and what the evaluation results were. It really depends on each person, right? Because everybody reads at different speeds, everybody processes their questions at different speeds. Ask for what you need. If you need more time so that you can review and be a meaningful participant, that's okay. You can reschedule, you can have another date. If you know they're going to be reviewing evaluations, you certainly can request a copy prior to the meeting so that you can come with your questions prepared. You want to, in this case, remember, you can't be a meaningful participant if you don't have time to review and understand what's being delivered. So if you need more time, go ahead and ask. Okay, here's our last one. Scenario number 4. During the IEP meeting, the conversations have become hard. You do not feel like you are being heard, and you can see tensions rising. The meeting no longer feels productive. What can you do? You can ask for a break. So you can ask for a short break if that's what you need. If you are in a place where you don't feel like you guys can affect it, no matter which side of the table you're on, if you feel like you need more than a short break, we can schedule a second meeting. You could use your due process, not your due process, I'm sorry. You could use your alternative, you can use your dispute resolution options. You can state what you feel or see from your perspective. I think that communication is important. It is okay to say, hey, emotions are really high and I really need to take a step away from this table so that I can come back and communicate and collaborate effectively. You can say, you know, this information, you can say how you feel. You want to convey it in a respectful way, but we want to make sure that we are able to communicate, because it's not healthy to not share. You can tell Lee shared that you can tell them that everyone is here for the same purpose, which is to help your child, and we need to make sure that we are moving forward with that as a goal. You can redirect them to, hey, the purpose of our meeting is to discuss this, and I understand, that sometimes collaboration is hard. I really want us to work together effectively to have a meeting where we can collaborate about him. It feels like tensions are high. Do we need to reschedule, or do you think we can move forward? Because, tensions can be high on either side of the table, depending on what is happening, historic relationships. It's one of those things where if your emotions are high and you feel like you are not effectively able to communicate, it is okay to say, hey, we need to reschedule. That is okay, because it would be better to have a meeting where everybody is able to effectively communicate their thoughts and ideas here at the table for our child. And it's okay in those spaces to say, hey, here's my availability. Let's find another date to meet. How do you address pushback when rescheduling? So I think if that specific thing were to, hopefully that wouldn't occur. Hopefully you would be able to say, hey, this meeting doesn't feel effective. Let's reschedule, and it wouldn't be, there wouldn't be any pushback. If there was, you could say, hey, let's I still think we need to reschedule, but maybe we need some additional involvement. I'm not sure. I have not seen a team have pushback if you say you want to reschedule, but obviously, if that you do have the right to have a facilitated meeting, to request a facilitated meeting. We're going to talk about, you could also request, maybe we do need some district level involvement. If tensions are high, it makes sense to reschedule the meeting so that we can all come back to the table and effectively communicate. If we're not in a place where we can effectively communicate, it's going to be hard for us to collaborate. So I would say that, if you do get pushback, make sure that it's documented in the prior written notice that you would like to have another meeting scheduled as soon as possible, so that you can make sure you have another meeting. You could contact us directly if so that we can help support you if something like that were to happen. So obviously, if tensions arise, you can ask for a break. You can ask for a 5-minute break, or you can step away from the table. You also have your alternative dispute resolution options, which include facilitation, mediation, due process, and state complaints. We don't have time to go through all those options, but I will send some follow-up information of a video we did with DPI that talks about all of them, because to be a meaningful participant, it's important that you know what your rights are. So I want to make sure that you all are aware of what your rights are. We also are always available to help provide you with resources and support here at ECAC. Andrea is going to go ahead and share a poll. I'm also going to share, we don't have time to go through these 2 resources, but these are tips sheets for virtual meetings. Some of them are more helpful for professionals, and some of them are tailored to families, but they are helpful tip sheets to just take a look at and see what would be meaningful for you. Those will come in your follow-up email as well, so that you can take a look at and see whether those would be helpful for you. One of them includes some meeting norms that come with cute little graphics, like a little computer and a little headset, which I think is cute for like putting up on a meeting ahead of time. Before we leave, Andrea, what are we doing next week for Tool Time Tuesday?
Yeah, everyone, next week, next Tuesday, we will be talking about the Indicator 8 survey for parents. So many of you may not know about this, so definitely join us. Terry Layton will be talking about it. It's the short survey that the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction requests parents to fill out. She'll be talking about the importance of the survey and why parents should participate.
Families that are here definitely participate in the Indicator 8 survey. It talks about how well the school engagement is in the IEP in the special education process with families. That's important information for DPI to know so that they can continue to promote effective communication and collaboration with families and schools. But Terry will be giving a full presentation on that next week. Thank you guys so much for your time. We hope to see you here next week, and we will move forward. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.